It is 3:30. Why don't we get started? I want to make sure everyone has a program. If you do not have a program and you're near the front here, there are some up here, but there are some also on the back table right there. Let me start by, of course, thanking you all for coming out here today. This is the 9th and final lecture of the season, being supported in total or in part by the African American Heritage House. We are now at the end of our inaugural season, and by any standard, at least from our perspective, it has been a rousing success. Thank you. We have had some wonderful and insightful speakers here this season, from David Blight speaking on Frederick Douglass, to Stacey Abrams discussing voter suppression, to Frank Thomas talking about the power of black preaching, to last week's speaker, Dr. Stan Deaton, who spoke on the causes of the Civil War and Confederate monuments, and we had over 1,000 people here for that talk. And today's presentation, I think, is going to be a fitting capstone on our inaugural season. My name is Errol Davis. I am privileged to serve as chair of the board of the African American Heritage House here at Chautauqua for this season. The African American Heritage House is an organization which is informed by the African American experience, and it's committed to strengthening Chautauqua by encouraging and welcoming diversity, by fostering candid and honest conversations, and by adding new voices to the programmatic mix. I have been gratified by the many emails that I have received expressing appreciation for the perspectives that we have brought here to the institution. And if you have written one of those emails, thank you very much. In the Chautauqua tradition, after the lecture today, there will be a moderated Q&A session, and I'll speak a little bit about that later. Now, not today, but tomorrow at 12:15 at the African American Heritage House at 38 Clark, which is about a block and a half, right down the brick walk on the corner of Foster, there is going to be a Chautauqua dialogue. Sponsored by the Department of Religion, but hosted by the African American Heritage House. The focus of this dialogue tomorrow will be to offer your reactions to the remarks you will hear here today. Often people always want to comment on speeches, and we would much prefer that you do it in the Chautauqua dialogue instead of in the question and answer session here today. These dialogues have been a success story in themselves. We've raised issues, and increasingly people want to talk about those issues. Last week, for example, after Stan Deaton's speech on the Civil War and Confederate monuments, we ran out of space at our house, and we had to send almost 40 people over to our spillover facility at the Baptist House in order to keep the size of the discussions manageable. So do join your fellow Chautauquans in conversation at 12:15 tomorrow at 38 Clark to further discuss what you hear in this venue today. We will have room for you either in the house or diagonally across the street at the Baptist House. Today's presentation is made possible in part through the generosity of Sarah and Karen James, as well as a number of other supporters. So please join me in thanking Sarah and Karen and all of our contributors for making this presentation and the entire season possible. And that mercifully concludes the announcements. We began this season by noting that 2019 is the 400th anniversary of the introduction of slavery in America by the English, and that the African American Heritage House has been pleased to present a season-long lecture series relating to the experiences of African Americans over the last 400 years. We've learned much over the last 8 weeks, some of it a bit painful to revisit, but we believe necessary if we are to move forward together. And as I look back over the last 8 weeks, we've had a number of highly acclaimed academic historians, a businessman turned museum founder, as well as a dynamic young politician, Stacey Abrams. Through all 8 lectures, the point was made time and time again that we can learn both from the past and the present. As George Santayana said so eloquently, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I would also suggest that that same fate awaits those who would just as soon ignore the past. Tip O'Neill once said that all politics is local. So it really is fitting that we close our season as we move from global themes of previous weeks into a discussion of a scalable local effort that provides hope for us all today. Today's speaker will take us from the past to the present and to the future of this nation. Today's speaker is Dr. Alex Harris, co-founder of the Arts Conservatory for Teens, or ACT, headquartered in St. Petersburg, Florida. He is an entertainer. Yesterday he performed at 6 p.m. in Smith Wilkes. How many of you were in there for that? If you weren't there, as you can see from the crowd, you really, really missed it. I'm not sure that we're going to be allowed, Waylon, to put part of the performance on our website, but we will check. And I have mentioned a few times that all of the speeches are on our website. That was incorrect. They are out on YouTube, but we are getting them on our website, and they should all be there within the next week or so. Many successful entertainers, such as Alex, have foundations into which they periodically pour money and then show up for the obligatory photo opportunities. Few of them are actually in the trenches, doing the work, helping plot a better future for children and getting dirty in the process. Alex is an exception. Alex Harris, the entertainer, has entertained and thrilled people around the world. Dr. Alex Harris, the academician, has studied at LaGrange College, Boston University, Harvard, and Nova Southeastern University, where he received his doctorate, not in music or performing arts, but in organizational leadership and curriculum development. Today we will learn how Dr. Harris has integrated his artistic and academic sides to the benefits of hundreds of needy and challenged children. Please join me in giving a warm Chautauqua welcome to Dr. Alex Harris.
Thank you, Earl, and I must say it is indeed an honor to be invited to speak here at the Great Historic Hall of Philosophy. And thanks again to the African American Heritage House for extending this wonderful invitation and facilitating this opportunity for the Arts Conservatory for Teens story to be shared. And I would like to say on behalf of our organization and my co-founder Herbert Murphy, as well as our board of directors and the hundreds of families that we serve, it is our sincerest gratitude to all of you for this opportunity and allowing us to share our voice and our story with you today at Chautauqua. So just give yourselves a hand and the person next to you for being present. Now today I'm going to give you a little bit of introduction of our organization as well as the why of our existence. And then I will share a brief story with you of one of our students. And then I will open up for questions, leaving more time for questions and dialogue around the arts and how we are able to do what we do and the successes we have, as well as some of the challenges that we have faced and are facing in our efforts to provide this, what we call the bridge for opportunity for inclusive success. So the Arts Conservatory for Teens was founded with a mission to educate, empower, and enrich the lives of youth and teens through arts education, particularly focused on the at-risk and high-risk youth and teens of low to moderate income families. Our vision is to improve the quality of life for all youth and teens in order to foster healthy, productive, and responsible citizens. Now, here's why we feel that is a need for what we do. According to Kohlberg's study, nearly a third of America's young people are not realizing their full potential. It is not because this particular population of students does not have the intellectual capacity, but because they are what I like to call disabled by systemic policies that are preventing students residing in socioeconomically challenged neighborhoods from excelling to the highest potential. How can the necessary academic and occupational skills be developed for a competitive global economy, the necessary academic and occupational things for a society when there are very few and for some neighborhoods no bridges or viable access for success? A disproportionate number of students who are suffering from low-income and or ethnic minority families who often do not have access to quality education, medical, social, and other non-school supports as our wealthier and privileged peers. To acknowledge the problem, perhaps, is the first step to resolving the issues, or what I like to call illnesses, we face in our community today. Our socioeconomically challenged communities are essentially diseased or diseased due to the inequalities. We must actively engage each other collaboratively to do something about what I refer to as the agonizing pains of social injustice, specifically as it relates to the ACT program related to our students. Richard Riley said, if young Americans are to succeed and contribute to our economy of ideas, they will need an education that develops imaginative, flexible, and tough-minded thinking. The arts powerfully nurture the ability to think in this manner. This is the reason why we launched the Arts Conservatory for Teens, with a focus that ensures that every child, regardless of circumstances at birth, has accessibility to an environment that stimulates and nurtures imaginative, flexible, and tough-minded thinking. ACT ensures that every student that enrolls into the organization is exposed to the opportunities beyond high school graduation. We create clear pathways, or sometimes I refer to as pipelines, to ensure that every student is obtaining their highest potential and not going into the prison systems, but going into careers, into higher education. In addition to, yes, we do offer dancing and acting and cinematography, digital photography, painting, sketching, and coding, but we also provide opportunities for our students to shadow, to get internships with our corporate, business, and government partners, because we want our students to develop the why. Why should I continue my education when there is so much struggle in my home? Why should I try to finish school? My mother needs help to keep the lights on. We do this so that the students can develop a sense of purpose, of getting up every morning and going to class, staying attentive with an outlook on life of not just opportunities and what could be, but what is for them when they have the commitment and dedication to graduate from high school, and for some to go into higher education institutions, and others to go directly into the workforce. To this end, we have obtained and continue to maintain 100% high school graduation, 90% of our students have gone on to higher educational institutions, some of which you may recognize, such as Carnegie Mellon, Boston Conservatory, Artavine University, Bethune-Cookman, Clark Atlanta University, University of South Florida, Duke Energy, FAMU, just to name a few of the schools, Pace University, that students from our ACT organization that we have helped walking side by side with the school district, with the families, to ensure that every child has not only the opportunity, but has accessibility to these opportunities. Now we look at some of our students who've come through the ACT organization. Not only have they graduated from high school and graduated from some of the colleges and universities I aforementioned, but they are also entered into careers such as Broadway. If you saw the Broadway tour when it was in the United States, the gentleman that played the genie was one of our students. Now he's in Singapore finishing up his second year of the world tour. If you watch the show Pose, one of our students is one of the lead characters on that show. Other students are working in television productions and music production, and others are educators. Some have enrolled or enlisted into the military. Others are entrepreneurs and starting their own businesses, because we do not just limit to the acting and dancing, but we also teach the art of leadership, the art of entrepreneurship, the art of healthy living, the art of money management, to ensure that our students have a holistic experience. Our recent evaluation, which we do every year, resulted in positive outcome, as fortunately, and I'm happy to say, it has been for the past 7 years. This recent evaluation report, 97% of our students demonstrated increased academic potential. 96% of our students demonstrated leadership potential. 83% of our students showed an increase in emotional intelligence and problem solving. And 96% of our students indicated an increase in arts-related skills. Now, while I talk about all this, all of the great things that we've accomplished, and we consider ourselves as being at the helm of systemic transformation through our holistic learning model for youth development in St. Petersburg, Florida, because of our strategic focus to build bridges among our local government, school district, faith-based organizations, and community stakeholders, there is still much, much more work to be done. Therefore, I spend a lot of time not only speaking on forums such as this, but also on a lot of one-on-ones with business leaders, with political leaders, or sharing our message and urging and encouraging each of them, as I encourage and urge each of us today to continue in the effort, regardless of race, ethnicity, or age, or socioeconomic status, to either start or continue our efforts to addressing social injustices that persist in the systems of our nation, that continue to hold our communities hostage, particularly the young Americans, the students, especially those of lower to moderate income families. For too long, I believe we have focused on the symptoms and not the problem. We have dealt with the issues as NyQuil. NyQuil only masks the symptoms and not the problem. It never gets to the virus that is infecting us. I think that in order to rid ourselves of these social injustices, we must start to really face the problems and work with the folks in influence, the folks of influence in the communities, as well as what we consider those who just be the common man or woman, to contribute to overcoming some of these challenges that we face. So at the Arts Conservatory for Teens, what we do, we host bonding dinners. We host various forums and invite the community out to share so that we can share our message and help keep them abreast of what's going on with some of the struggling kids who we see every day. Don't realize that they didn't eat dinner last night. They stayed up to watch the little one because their mother had to sleep to get up the next morning to go to work to keep the lights on. Or maybe she's working 2 or 3 jobs. This summer we had a student, Malachi. Malachi came to our summer program. He was exhausted because the night before his brother had broken out of the county jail, and he was in there because of armed robbery, but he'd broken out and the cops had 10 cops surrounding their house. And he and his mother, now afraid of their older 20-year-old brother, and have to leave and go to a hotel. But he comes to act as a safe haven, trying to not become what his older brother is. These are the kinds of things that our students are facing. And so instead of pushing them aside or allowing them to become a contributing number to the statistics of attrition or the next one in the systems, we say, what can we do about it that's, one, attractive, that's exciting and fun, and that could lead to not just the opportunity to graduate, but beyond graduation and get a good job and become a great contributing citizen in our community. This is what I mean when we talk about what can we do, and just to do something or a little is not enough. There's always more to be done, and we should not rest until we get to the problem to stop the bleeding in our communities. I want to share with you, finally, before I extend this forum for further discussion with your questions or clarity of anything that I've said earlier. There's a story by the name of a gentleman by the name of AAHH9. AAHH9 is one of many of our students, but he came to us in the 2016-17 academic year, and he had significant behavior issues, including juvenile delinquency, 2.0 GPA, and he had a potential school expulsion for several behavior infractions. Like so many of our young folks, ACT serves, and AAHH9 needed someone or an environment that was conducive to cultivate the positives that we know and we knew at the time, and we currently know with others that those children possess. And so AAHH9 took to ACT because we had something that was very attractive to him. We had a DJ spinning class. And so we just didn't give, when we offer these classes to students, they're not just taking the class just to learn the skills, but many of the students, they have interest in learning, an interest in pursuing it as a career. And because of their interest, we ensure that they understand the business and a pathway to take in order to do that. Others who are just interested in a class because it's attractive, we still use that opportunity, one, to engage, two, to mitigate the attrition of students or to maintain our retention of students' engagement. So this certainly worked with AAHH9. Not only did he learn DJ spinning from a professional teaching artist, but he also was able to learn how to monetize that, because we are often called to either have our students perform or have our students do DJ or some sort of engagement with a greater community for an event or an activity that is going on. Well, with these opportunities that are presented to us, we certainly take advantage to teach our students how responsibility, and their first job skills start with us. So not only are we helping them in building their confidence and their academic potential, but we're also preparing them in real time, I like to refer to as the workforce as well. So AAHH9, he comes to us, you start learning spinning class, but he also finds out about our culinary arts engagement through the ABC chefs that work with young students who are interested in culinary arts. And so he started to take those classes as well. In addition, he not only took the spinning class in culinary arts, but he finds out about, he shares with us his interest in becoming a veterinarian. And he wants to get into that program. So with one of our community partners, we partnered with them, and I got him an internship so that he can start learning and shadowing someone that he aspired to be in their profession. And so now Kashif has not only learned DJ spinning, responsibility is showing up. He also has increased his GPA from a 2.0 to 3.46. The first year he came to us, his mother was ready to throw in the towel. My business partner and I, we went to the conference room and we met with her and a close friend of theirs and up to the family. And we said, give us a chance. He just got into ACT. Year or two later, he went from getting all these infractions at the school or referrals to the office literally every day to this last couple of years of his academic education education in high school. He has not received one infraction from at the school. And he's on his way to graduation with his diploma and to major in animal science. So that is one of the many stories. I can go on and on. Yes, clap your hand for Kashif if you like. Kashif, as I aforementioned, is one of many stories. I will share this one. A gentleman by the name of Style Spates. Style Spates, and some of you I had the pleasure of dining with. I shared this story. I can't remember which situation I was in and sharing. But Style Spates, he came to our organization at 13 years old because he wanted to learn to ballet dance. He wanted to learn how to become a dancer, and his focus and interest was ballet. And so at the time, we only had students who identify with a female gender in that class, and so he was a little afraid or a little shy and thought that he would be bullied or something. So we called a meeting with everyone and we said, listen, if anyone says anything about Styles in the ballet class, you need to come, you're going to have to come through us. So do not do that. Everyone has equal opportunity to explore whatever he or she desires, okay? We make sure that it's a safe environment for everyone. I'm so happy that we did that for a number of reasons, but one in particular I want to share with you, because Styles, at 13 years old, started to learn how to ballet dance. And does anyone want to volunteer really quickly? What is the general age of starting ballet? 3 years, right. 13 years old. Add a 1 to that one. 13 years old. He learned how to ballet and then dance, and then he wanted to go to Boston Ballet Summer Intensive. Do you know how competitive that is? Well, he applied and he got in, but then he had another hurdle to face. It cost $8,000. And so we said, okay, this is what we're going to do, Styles. We're going to have you perform for some of our community supporters. One young lady in particular, she had just finished Leadership St. Pete, and she got with some of her friends, her colleagues, and they raised the $8,000 in a week, sent him away. He got into Boston Ballet, but it didn't stop there. After getting into Boston Ballet and completing, he said, I want to go to school to Boston Conservatory. So he applied to receive his higher education at Boston Conservatory. Not only did he get a letter of acceptance, but he got a full ride. Now, I hastened to the end of the story, but the beginning is Styles was one of those students that we consider that people refer to as falling through the cracks. He come from a single-parent home, but in his home was a little different than some people, but others is very similar. His mother had a child by someone who was just a couple years older than he. He was legal, but he was 19 years old. So this almost just took him on a whole nother planet. He stopped going to class. He started getting into a whole bunch of other things that were not healthy for him. But it was through the ACT organization, and a teacher who knew that he was in our organization said, you guys should maybe talk to Stiles. He's not showing up to class. He's skipping class. And if he doesn't show up, he's going to fail. And if he fails, he's not going to graduate. And then he most likely going to drop out, because that's what many of them do, to get too embarrassed. Because brilliant guy, but just had a life situation. So regardless of the situations or circumstances that many of our students faced, we really try to create this environment with our organization that nurtures or cultivate something positive within them and allow them to see the goodness that they possess and beyond the opportunities, but providing that accessibility to the opportunity so that they can achieve their highest level of success. So that is, in the short form, the Arts Conservatory for Teens, and I would love to hear any questions you may ask for any more things that I didn't share. Yes. Are you going to come to them? How do we do that? Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, Alex. Most of us are either sympathetic or empathetic to social justice issues, but empathy and sympathy have never solved anything. One must take the step of moving from empathy to advocacy. Alex has obviously taken that step to the benefit of us all. So please join me in thanking Alex again for the wonderful time. We're going to have questions. And again, I would caution we would prefer there be questions. If you have statements to make, we have a Chautauqua dialogue tomorrow at 12:15. And Alex, if you come back up, I want to ask the first question, which is, you mentioned a 100% graduation rate, and that is on the surface impressive, but if it was a class of 5, perhaps not so impressive. So would you give us a sense of the scale of your operation? How many students have you touched and graduated? And also the time, how long did it take to get the operation up and running? Was there any piloting and things of that nature? So if you could give us that, and then we'll go to the microphones.
Sure. Yes. So I didn't say that we've been in operations as a 501c3 organization for 7 years. And we pilot the ACT program from 2009 to 2012. We started with 30 students. We now serve over 700 students annually in 10 different locations, and that's in combination of our partnership with the school district and the city of St. Petersburg and the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg as well. And each year we graduate anywhere between 10 to 12 students in our organization since 2012. When we started as a pilot, it was 30 students. When we started in 2012, there were over 150 students.
First question, and we do have 2 microphones, and we can alternate if some of you near the back of the line want to move over to the other side here. Yes, sir.
My only question is, how can we clone you? and it's a serious question because there's so much need. You're in Florida, I'm in Arizona, and we could really use a program like you. And how can we get something like this started in many more areas in this country? Because the need is so great. So that's my question.
Okay, sure. Great question. I don't know about the cloning part, but But I will say the intention when we started the ACT organization, our interest was to create a model that can be scaled into various parts of the world, not just St. Petersburg, Florida. We started it there, and we feel that we've been speaking to several people about looking at different ways to do that. So within the next 3 to 5 years, we are looking to offer the opportunity and have a team that will go to different cities and to be able to implement what we've done. So that is part of our plan, and it has been from the beginning.
Hi there, thank you. I guess a couple of related questions. How do the students find you? It sounds like you might be within the school district. Is it a charter school? How do you fund it? And what is the role of the parents' involvement?
Okay, great question. So number one, the students find us, we are part of the school. We are partnered with the school board. That's where we start, and we get the superintendent, the associate superintendent, the area superintendents, the principals, and it trickles down that we are tightly integrated with the school system. And let me just also, while I'm answering your question, say that generally you don't just go to a school and say, we want to bring the arts, right? Because they're going to say, they already don't fund it, so why should they engage you, especially when we do a contract with them? But that wasn't the approach. The approach was we want to address the behavior issues. So we focused on character essentials. And so in focusing that, we said how we want to do that. And it was embraced. And so we allow we get the message out through the principal has a way of doing it. They have Peace Jar in different areas, have different systems to do that. Also, we do strong engagement. And then they have a parent, when the parents come on campus, but when they fill out the application, which the parents have to sign off on, we get the information. So they get emails from us, they get text messages from us, they get calls from us, and we also have what I referred to earlier, bonding dinners. This is an opportunity where we get a sponsored meal where they get a chance to come and engage their students, not just kind of like a family style, because a lot of them don't eat well every day. So we try to have a healthy meal and allow the parents with their child to know what's going on and to encourage them to invite others to share the message. So we have several ways or channels, including social media and television. We're talking about what we do to get the word out, to get involved with our curriculum.
And then how is it funded?
It's funded through donors, and we're always raising money, and it doesn't have to be in Florida. And we have a website, yes, artsconservatoryforteens.org. Arts, A-R-T-S, conservatory, F-O-R, for teens.org is the website. So people give through that, but we also, from donors, corporate sponsorships, also the foundations, whether it's at corporate or the county, and we also have our contracts with the district that we get funded in our events. So those are the fundings of mixed metrics.
Thank you.
Alex, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I'm also a professional fundraiser.
Oh, fantastic.
So before I ask my question, I wanted to make you an offer. I'll give up my question if sometime now or at the end of your talk, you'll sing us one of those great inspirational songs from last night. Shall I give up my time?
Okay. What's your question?
Then, well, I can sit down.
Are you giving it up? Okay. All right.
No,
I'll sing a closing for you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm from St. Pete, and I wanted you to all know how proud we are of this program. And I wanted to suggest that since this can transport to so many other cities, because it's so important to be able to be active with teenagers when they're in really formative years and easily susceptible to going in bad directions, that you put together a playbook for other cities and maybe have some students write a guidebook. And so maybe the students that are doing writing and fundraising could help you put together a playbook that could be distributed to people that want to do something like this in their own communities.
That's a really great idea. Thank you. Last two? Okay.
Yes, most of my questions have been answered because that was the focus that I was thinking about. Can you tell me what your 5-year plan is? I mean, you've gone, up like that. That's a scary thing. where do you want to be, or where do you think you will be in 5 years?
So, yes, the great question. So we are just ending our first 5-year strategic plan in 2020. The next 5 year, we're already in position. We're focused on a few areas. One is we want to get into a position to start our endowment. I know that seems like pretty stretched, but I think that we can do that. But before, and then the other is an actual headquarter facility. Right now, we're not in a facility. And what we want to do is be able to have a place where folks hear about ACT Anywhere can come and receive training and all that. So we're focused more on that part, because in our first 5 years, we had what we call the RSS, Respond, Scale, Sustain. And the question is, whatever we do with the organization and its curriculum development, are we responding to a need? Second, is it scalable in our response? And thirdly, is it sustainable? So the growth as it relates to the students, I think it's just a matter of hiring contracted teaching artists. And that is kind of, you can duplicate, and it's based on demand, of course, what the courses that's want to be offered at different areas of the pockets of the county, Pinellas County, which is inclusive, of course, St. Petersburg. So I'm not sure if that answers specifically.
No, that does. But also, do you use volunteers and paid staff, or just paid?
We use volunteers, paid staff, and we hire professional artists for teaching, our teaching artists. Last question.
Well, you've done a superb job presenting your very commendable program. I think you've probably spoken to many of us, and my question is, if we, as a community, would want to volunteer, what advice do you have people of our age and our enthusiasm to get into volunteering?
Well, yeah, great question. So we have volunteers all the time, and we have some volunteers. We have a book reading club. We have school on Saturdays. We call our Saturday school to help students. That's how you're able to. That's how we were able to help students such as Kashif accelerate in his academic performance, because most of the time these students just need some attention that's focused on them, because when they're in the classroom it's too many, or they get lost in the shuffle because of whatever reasons. So there are opportunities there, opportunities with our events. There are volunteers who volunteer to share the ACT message or mission in their home and invite us in and students to perform and get a chance to meet. So there's so many. We don't necessarily limit. If you have an idea and say, I want to volunteer within the scope of our mission and our efforts, that's great. Some volunteered in introducing our organization to corporations to get a partnership so that we can do these engagements beyond just the surface and understand the operation, which has led to a lot of students' interest to get into the shadowing program that we have, and then later into internships. So there's so many different ways people can get involved, because we do look at it as a community organization to really make systemic transformation.
Thank you.
We're done, but we have one last question, and then we're going to your promise.
My concern is for the students who really need to be part of your program for whatever reason. I'll give you the example. Our church partners with a Title I school in our neighborhood. The teacher that I was working, these are second graders, the teacher that I was working with just never had things ready for me to do. And so I took my little harp to let the students just spend 5 to 10 minutes of the time that I was able to have with them. And the ones that I wanted to spend time with were the ones who were having trouble in school, because they were the ones who really needed to have that opportunity to not have any stress, to not have any expectations, just to be able to express themselves. I did that for 2 years. Both years, the child that I really wanted to spend time with got expelled, or was behavioral problems, and he was in whatever they called it. I had no access to him, or it happened to be boys both years. I'm concerned about the students who really need to be part of a program, but may not have, their behavior may be so bizarre that they may not.
I guess my question is, do you find those students? Do you seek out those students?
Yes, we do. We work with school counselors. We get referrals. If there are students that they feel, of course, we introduce innocent open, though we don't twist any child's arm to be a part because there's so many that want to be a part. But we do have students who've come to us with ankle bracelets on. We've had students who wanted to be there. We have students such as Kashif who had the behavioral issues. He's so pro-ACT now because it changed his life. So that we've seen an eclectic group of students who also they are doing well academically. They don't have any behavior issues. They just don't have the resources to excel. There are students like Anthony, who's the genie in the Aladdin. He didn't have the resources to go to Fringe Festival, but because of our organization, we're able to send him. And look where he is today, all over the world.
And I will share that the earrings that I wear are, lightning bolts and I wear them in honor of Billy Elliot and the song Electricity. Why do you want to dance? It just makes me feel so awesome.
Thank you for your comment. You promised.
Okay.
Well, let me please again join me in thanking Dr. Alex Harris. And I see we're going to move from Dr. Harris, the academician and the operator of a human service agency, back to Alex Harris, the entertainer, for a brief moment. This is unplanned, but again, you agreed to it, I didn't. So I give you the entertainer, Alex Harris. The chart-topping 5 Billboard hit entertainer, Alex Harris.
Well, I'm going to do this, a brief version of this song that I didn't do last night, and it's this song. And if you like it, please embrace it. If you don't, then I don't know. I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change will come. Oh, yes, it will.
Thank you, Alex. And let me thank you all for coming today. For those of you who have been here multiple weeks, thank you for coming back. As I said, this completes the inaugural season of the African American Heritage House Speaker Series. We will be back next season, bigger and better. So thank you very much for coming.